any attribution there as far as commissioner or director bringing that up. So I think we can get some clarification on that. And we can get some clarification on the second motion that was highlighted. So far the corrections that I have are, we were going to change the vice chair. That was attributed to Koopman, right? And it should be Bouchon, right? Yeah.
Just under D.
Okay, and then under summer reading program, we have to change the number, the 1,500 to be the goal or the target number. And we had the, I do have the date, we don't have to go over it now, but I do have the date as far as the instrument petting zoo, which was very successful. It's a very cool idea, I thought, because usually when I hear those phrases, I've heard of them in terms of like a technology kind of thing. So I thought instruments, I was like, oh, they're going to bring out, devices and stuff. And I was like, no, they're musical, which is so cool. So, sorry. It's very cool.
No, it's really neat.
sounds
Get
cool.
the
Very cool.
exposure and the
Absolutely.
tactile motion or the tactile feeling of. And then one final correction on page 13 toward the very end. The next meeting of the Redondo Beach Library Commission will be a regular meeting to be held at 7:00 p.m. That should read August 7th.
That should be, you're absolutely right. Okay,
And that's all I had as far as the edits are concerned.
anything else?
Not for me.
I think that covered it. Okay, great. So then,
I think I'll move to approve the consent calendar and the excluded consent calendar items that we covered.
not before.
Do I second that?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Which will bring us to H, so public participation on any non-agenda items. Don't think we have anybody.
Do we have anybody online?
No, there are no one is on Zoom and there's no e-comments.
Okay, so that will take us then to I, items continued from previous agendas.
I don't think we have anything there.
Okay, and so then J, items for discussion prior to action. We want to go straight to the director's report.
Right. So before I get started, do you have any questions about what we have listed in the director's report? Or anything on the data or statistics that we submitted in regards to programs?
I'm still interested in when open access is actually.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you.
That is from our prior agenda, actually.
Yes, and I,
Continuing agenda. since I've
Yes.
been on this commission.
well, I think that we're making progress, certainly, we're moving towards that goal. We're working on the installation of the surveillance cameras. I think we're a lot closer than we were at the last meeting. Hopefully, if all goes well, my goal is to have, again, hopefully within the next month or so, an agreement before council as far as the installation of cameras, which will be, it's huge. That's an integral component, obviously. The other component is we had a meeting with the Biblioteca and our IT department in the library going over the installation of the door mechanism. So right now, we're in the process of trying to get kind of a call, for lack of a better phrase, an all hands on deck to be at the location to review the work that's been done and ensure that connectivity is there. Our IT departments have already secured a port so that the system can go outside to our ILS and verify the status of a patron, so that's good. As far as I understand it, the door mechanism is installed, but we need to verify that, so that is in progress. Again, working with various groups that sometimes takes some time. We're trying to push and prod. Everybody's, I'm sure, got projects they're busy with, but I try to make sure that, we put the ball in the other court. Nothing's lagging with us. So that's where we're at right now. Again, we're making progress. I know that I believe it came, because I watched the interviews for commissions at the last council meeting before last, and I know it came up at that meeting. So I know it's in top of mind, so to speak, as a nomenclature of the day. So it's certainly something that I'm thinking about all the time, and we're just trying to make sure the lag isn't with the library. So we're making progress. Like I said, hopefully we'll have an agreement, a proposal and an agreement for council to review and potentially approve if they so desire. That will be a big milestone in the surveillance camera installation. And then, like I said, with the next couple of weeks meeting, all hands on deck to secure the network. Like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. We haven't really identified anything that would preclude us from moving forward. It's just unfortunately a little slower than we anticipated. But we are working with everyone to accomplish the goal of that service. So
Is there anything we can do to help speed it along?
I would say cross your
That
fingers.
we can go one-on-one with our
Good.
councilman to
No,
ask
no.
for help?
No. Not that I can think of. Certainly, I would let Commission know if there's anything you could do to assist us for sure. Yeah. But like I said, we're doing everything we can on our end. And we realize other folks have various competing priorities. We're being respectful moving forward. It's taking some time, but we're doing our due diligence.
Is there a projected time, month,
Well, I hate
date,
to,
year?
I'm hoping, I said, I was hopeful, optimistic about early this year. I'm hoping to get it running by the end of this year. Again, I hate to put a date on anything because stuff can come up, but it is moving forward. We have a few monumental pieces that are in place that'll hopefully be resolved soon. And then it's kind of like dominoes. Once those fall, everything else kind of falls in line. Like I said, unfortunately, some of these things take time, but, it's not for a lack of working on it and intent and trying to make sure that we're working with all the vested parties and make sure that, our agreements are sound and don't put the library or the city at risk at all. So a lot of times those things do take time to do your due diligence and make sure it's done right the first time.
Do we have any concerns about privacy for either the people who upgrade their cards to use Open Access Plus or even from a surveillance perspective?
Well, that's an ongoing discussion, but I mean, it's a very good point that you bring up. I think the only thing that, the only obligation that we have is to notify people that once they're live and installed. So that goes for everybody because the system, when it's in operation, usually in my experience, you don't just have it on during the the camera system. So it's 24/7 passive surveillance. So if anything happens, because, kind of makes sense. Notification has to go up. I'm sure you've been in, stores, banks, whatever. You've seen the signage before, as long as we give clear indication to the folks that there's passive surveillance going on. And then for people that apply to take part in the program, they have to review basically the nuts and bolts of the program and agree to that. Now, again, it's something that we, obviously a library, I think we have to hold people's privacy, I think, at a higher standard than many organizations. So certainly we believe in intellectual freedom to read, and privacy. So we hold that in very high concern and would only access that in case of an incident where we were trying to follow up, or in the case where law enforcement would need it for to pursue something that would be, obviously outside of our jurisdiction, they would have access. But certainly we hold that very high regard. When I worked at Ventura, there was only a couple of times that we had to access the cameras. And there's an administrative process. Obviously, not just everyone has access. There's administrative approval, that sort of thing. So it's something, again, like I said, we take very seriously. It's not like the Strand camera, which every once in a while I check out to see how the weather is down on the Strand 24/7. But yeah, as long as we have notification, people agree to the parameters of the system once it's implemented. And again, I just want to say, as a library, we take privacy obviously very, very seriously.
Already, so this will be an extension of what we're already doing for privacy.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Is there an implementation plan for our consumers?
Well, I think that right now,
Going to enroll people
right.
when?
Yeah, I think right now we're trying to, the two big critical milestones would be the surveillance installation and make sure that's working, and then making sure the door access control works. Once we have that and we're sure that it's working from an internal standpoint, what I would envision is that we start off with a soft launch. Maybe ask commissioners if they would like to join in and try out the program. Try to work out anything that's unintended. From a staff side, it's, in my experience, again, it's one of those things where you want to make sure it's working before you completely do a full public launch. So I would anticipate that we demo it internally, then do a soft launch to work out any sort of kinks that might come up, unintended consequences. Try to resolve those issues before then thinking about doing a more high-profile launch and announcement of kind of an official launch date. Usually, again, just in my experience, that tends to work out better. So then you're not finding about all those things when you've invited everybody to come down and partake. So.
Thank you.
So I think I've discussed Open Plus. I think we had a very successful Juneteenth and Pride program celebrating inclusivity. So from Hilaire, I have that the Juneteenth program she held at Main Library on June 19th. There were 36 attendees at that program. And then for the Pride Story Times, one was held on June 20th at Main Library. We had 34 attendees, and another story time on June 29th at the North Branch. We had 14 in attendance grand total, so we were pretty happy to report on that. And that is, of course, in addition to our passive book displays, bibliographies, that sort of thing that we had going on. And in addition to also kind of the summer reading kickoff. So all these things youth services were very busy in June. Did you have any questions or comments on those programs?
It's great.
Just a quick little segue. When we kind of encountered those programs early on, what I've done now is set up monthly meetings with our adult and youth services program individuals so we can kind of get ahead of things and start planning as far in advance as we can. Of course, it's always tough because we know what national holidays are coming up, cultural events are coming up at the same time. You also want to leave some space for opportunities that might come up rather quickly, you don't want to be so planned out that you can't take advantage of opportunities that come up on short notice. But I think that so far has worked out really well, a lot of synergy between both adult and youth services. The library is working on the redesign of the library webpage. So I've brought that up before. Hopefully it'll be more intuitive. As soon as we have a design that we're ready to get some feedback on, we can share that with the Library Commission. You can provide feedback for us. Certainly, part of it is not only to make the website more user-friendly for the public and staff, to be honest, but also to facilitate as many things online as possible. So right now, I think it is kind of challenging to, reserve the meeting room space. We're working on making more efficiencies there, requesting books be added to the library, materials, ebooks, suggestions for purchase, interlibrary loan. These things we hope to facilitate on the webpage, and so hopefully those forums. The other component that I think is interesting is how we'll migrate the calendar. We're hoping to have a much more visually appealing calendar that facilitates people's interest and ability to add things to their personal calendar. So we're working with the team on that.
Dr. Benke, did we talk about integration with social media? When I don't remember if we talked about that or not.
No, that's a good point. So wherever we can, especially with the public page, we're investigating ways that people can then promote. I tell people with social media, one of the challenging things is usually I have to be following these groups or organizations so we can produce things on social media. People aren't following us on Instagram or Facebook, they're not going to hear about it. So if we can kind of have those social media widgets, not only in the catalog, but in the calendar, certainly we're going to try to take advantage of that so that they can then publish the events on their Facebook and get their friends, because obviously if they're interested in attending a program, their friends might be as well. And they can help do some of the promotion and raise awareness. So definitely, those are things that we're looking at for sure, depending on what sort of widgets and authentication we can do. But yeah, good question. There's also the possibility, we'll look into it, I'm not sure if it's necessarily feasible, but some websites do take advantage of doing kind of, they'll do like a Twitter crawl or a Facebook crawl or whatever. So those are things we'll take a look at. One of the things I think it's interesting with the catalog and the website is that you want to strike that balance between usability and features, but not oversaturate it so people don't know where to go, what button to click on. So it's kind of still wants to be nice and clean, easy to use, but at the same time take advantage of those features for sure. So the city launched a new phone system, and we were working out the challenges with that, but I think there's a lot of opportunities with that system. I was going to put Erin on the spot and let her talk about the challenges that have arisen over the last few weeks with the telephone system, but I will say that it is, there are an amazing amount of features, and I think ultimately it's going to enhance our ability to deliver quality customer service for sure. It's amazing how sophisticated these systems have gotten. I mean, I thought they were sophisticated enough. Pretty soon they're going to be able to answer questions for me. I'm sure that's in the near future. But yeah, we're already looking at some ways that we can, one of the things that we're looking at, for example, is if there is an issue in the library currently, we have a schedule. People can look at the schedule and identify like who might be in the building to assist. So we're looking at is creating like a tree. So they would call one extension and it would ring all of the supervisors in the building at that time. So it would cut down on them trying to find someone if they need assistance. In addition to that, I'm sure that, you all have this where you work, but the ability to also get your voicemail via email. There's an app so I can be connected 24/7. Not that I'm not connected enough already, but I will be able to do that. So I'll be able to listen and retrieve voicemails at any given time. We'll get them via email, create some of these distribution links, work on the directory when people call to make sure that we're listing things in efficient order for people to access things. Try to take it from a customer service standpoint. We've all had frustrations when we call someplace and the one option you want is like number 11 or something. So we're trying to take a look at that, see what it is that people really want. If they just want a person, make it very clear they can hit 0 and get someone during operational hours. But otherwise we have the decision tree to get people, with the system today, for example, if they accidentally called main, we put a link so they can get north, so you have to redial. All these things to help improve our customer service to our patrons and then get feedback from them. And if we can make more adjustments, we'll be able to do it. The other nice thing is that all these messages now, we don't have to record, right? So we put them in the system. The machine does a pretty good job of doing a very nice, soft, friendly voice. So whatever it is that we want to put in the scripts when we're closed, it'll do that as well. Working with the Friends of the Library, because that's a city phone in there, so creating a decision tree there for them to handle all the requests about donations, book sales, what have you. So I think ultimately it's going to be a great improvement. But just like with every new technology, there's a learning curve. So we're working on making sure that we're up to speed on that. One of the other things that we're looking at with the system is after school, the study rooms get packed, and then we get people on a reservation list, right? And the students today, they just text, but we can't currently text from our phones. We have to give them a call, and then, they're like, who is this calling me? What I mean? So now we have the opportunity possibly to then be able to enable the librarians to text from their computers to the students, so then they'll see that the study room is available. All these things are, they're not high profile, big bang for your buck, but it'll improve efficiency and customer service for everybody. So, it's a learning curve for sure. Any questions on our telephone system?
That's cool.
One thing that I should also add is that we've been a little limited in providing revised and updated business cards. So when I send an email out, that signature has been updated with my current work line, but our business cards have not yet, because the city is also in the process of redesigning the city logo, and they didn't want to print a bunch of things and have to go back to reprint. So we're all eagerly awaiting the ability to order new business cards. We're going to have, in regards to the summer reading activities and the summer reading program, I just wanted to mention that we'll have Hilaire back at the next meeting to talk about all the successes of our summer reading, but it's been very successful. I went to a few of the programs. I mean, that's what you got to do. You get inspired again. You're in an office all day, reading emails, responding. You get down there and see the programs happening. You're like, okay, this is why we do what we do. So she'll come in and provide an update for that. We are taking a look at a couple of grant opportunities. I won't go into too much detail unless you have questions. One is a grant program provided by the state library that has a small amount of funding for what's called a stay and play grant. What that does is it provides you with the opportunity to purchase furniture activities so that you can build off of your story times and have an activity for kids that's supervised by an adult. At the same time, you have the opportunity to educate caregivers on certain topics, and those topics are presented by maybe a community partner. So to give you an example, what we did in the county of Ventura was we partnered with First Five Ventura, and they did an incredible job of putting together a whole early literacy program to teach the caregivers and guardians the importance of literacy, and then all the ins and outs of literacy. Because just from an average person might say, well, that's just reading, but they have singing, playing, all these functions, the 5 components of early literacy. Don't ask me to recite that right now. I could probably get to them. But the 5 components of early literacy, which is an amazing deal. So they are reaching out to the kids, getting them involved, but also planting that seed about how important early literacy is. And so those things are hugely popular. I'm not sure, we haven't identified yet a community partner, but we're looking at options. It's certainly something that's available to us, and I think has a lot of possibilities. The other grant opportunity is for Dial a Story. So hopefully we'll be able to put in and apply for that. That's grant funding to subscribe to a subscription service where you offer a local phone number. That phone number enables individuals to call in and listen to a story over the phone. And they can also do it over the internet. But as I understanding, the genesis of the program was that a certain large percentage of the population does not have reliable access to the internet. So this was a way of providing these story times, not necessarily through YouTube, what have you, because the internet, they could dial a phone number from anywhere. It's a toll-free number, and then they get access to story times. In addition to that, staff can also create and generate their own content and put it on the dial story time. So if you wanted to have content that was uploaded on there, and of course they walk you through things like licensing and that sort of thing, so you're not running afoul of any sort of copyright. But those are exciting opportunities that we'll be looking into. Any questions regarding the update or anything that I haven't talked about that was?
Is the dial-a-story targeted at youth, or is it different ages? And the reason I ask is I'm thinking more of an aging population that maybe isn't as comfortable, either can't get to the library or isn't comfortable looking things up online.
I think that's a really good point. I think that from the information literature I've looked at, it's mostly for youth. But I think you're absolutely right. Some libraries I've been at, we had success with adult story time, which kind of throws people for a loop when they first hear it, but then they're like, no, it's really successful. People come in, people read, it's really engaging. And so I think that's a really good point. I think that's something that we'd like to explore. I could see, that being well received, certainly, and for everybody. I mean, I would listen to a story on the phone, but for caregiving facilities, that sort of thing, where they don't have the staff time or necessarily expertise, something that they could put on. If it's for me, I'm not here.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It's a really good point. Any other questions, comments?
I think I saw that you and the technical services librarian had met with Orange Boy and the Niche Academy, and I'm just curious what those were.
Yeah, thank you for bringing those two up. Orange Boy is a software service that provides, there's multiple components, but they have a unique email marketing system that talks to the ILS, and then you can configure your notices via email based on certain demographics. So if they've checked out X types of books recently, you can make recommendations for programs. It's pretty sophisticated. It's something that I've had some experience with at Ventura. We just wanted to explore and see if it was something we'd be interested in here. Another component is that they also work with your ILS data to better present that in a fashion that's more easily digestible by the general public and stakeholders. Niche Academy is another service that I'm partially a fan of because they have both a public and a staff component. The public component is anywhere on the website that somebody is on, any of your electronic resources, you can have an instructional video pop up for that particular. So if you want to know how to download a book on Libby, it will come up with instructions on that really quickly. They generate a lot of their own content, so you're not kind of putting them off to YouTube where who knows where they'll land. And then they also have a component that's growing, and that is the staff education side. So if you want to teach your staff certain things like customer service skills, email etiquette, those types of things. And so then it's kind of like a buffet kind of thing, so you can pick and choose so you can add things. They even have some basic things that are helpful to just about everybody. So like Microsoft Outlook, Word, Excel, they're always updating these things. So it helps us potentially, we haven't subscribed, but it potentially helps us to provide a lot of tutorials that we wouldn't normally be able to provide. And then you can also request, you can build your own content, and then you can also share that with other libraries. So if you see something that a library has and it's out there, you can grab it. If you see it and they don't make it available, you can give them a call and say, can I get us really good instruction on checking out on Libby? Can we borrow that? So it's a really nice feature service. The other thing that I wanted to mention briefly, I put in my notes, was that Tim and I have been meeting with BT Cat. So libraries still, to this day, we kind of have to, our catalog is made up of records, right? So they're commonly referred to as MARC records or bibliographic records. For many years, we subscribed to OCLC, which is kind of like that's kind of what they're known for. They're certainly branching out. They've generated their own ILS system. They certainly have a lot of other services out there that they provide, but they're predominantly known, or at least originally, for creating a database and access to MARC records for all libraries to share, because it doesn't make sense for every library to get a book and then have to do their own MARC records. So it's kind of, on one level, it's sharing, but it's monetized, right? So what Tim did was he looked at some of the current other resources out there that provide these records. BTCat and Sky River were other competitors. And I think, if I remember correctly, we were paying annually about $17,000 for the subscription to the OCLC service for the MARC records. And BTCat quoted us $5,000. So we are taking that agreement to council, I think, or not, I think it's a council meeting after this next week, so I'll be at council, hopefully that gets approved. So we're looking at creating additional efficiencies like that, saving some funding, so then hopefully we'll be able to put that back into collections, and hopefully we'll have, other things, because certainly, we have to be good custodians of our funds, and if there's ways that we can allocate, save some money here. And Tim's review with staff of the service, it was very comparable. Any sort of discrepancy was not at the record quality was not noticeably different. So we were getting good quality records from BTCat for that cost savings. So kudos to them for working that out. Hopefully we'll get that agreement approved. Any other questions?
So is that a data service that feeds the metadata that we see on the library website, on the app, all of that?
Yes, in a nutshell. So most of the books that we purchase, we pay for pre-processing and cataloging, but there's a lot of materials that we have to look up cataloging on or find a MARC record for. So that's the service that helps, mitigate or bridge that gap.
Yep, that's a significant cost difference. So thank you for
Yes.
looking into that and investigating. And if the coverage is the same and
Yes.
Did we have any additional updates about the new budget?
Well, the budget was approved by council, and I think I think that the new budget has been implemented. It's available for the public to review. We're internally still looking at allocations because we still want to pursue the international languages. But our budget for this fiscal has been approved, and then we're looking forward to mid-year budget review when we have that opportunity. I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse. We just got to this year's budget, but that would be the next big milestone. But certainly internally, we're taking a look at allocations. I mean, as you're well aware, many of the periodicals cease publication. I was shocked to hear that Catster ceased publication, unfortunately. If you didn't know what that was, it was basically Cat Fancy. They call it Catster, and then there was Dogster. Dogster apparently still in publication, so it's going great. But, as you see those things, then you might have to reallocate some of the funding for periodicals elsewhere to other more robust areas of the collection. Any other questions?
That covers it. Thank you. Do we need a motion to file the director's report?
I move to receive and file the director's report.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That's going to bring us to K. Any member items or referrals to staff?
I have one thing, and you don't have to answer now, but I was in Germany and we went to this nonprofit museum, and there's this big sign, all users must register at this table. So we stood in line, we got to the table, and the guy said, oh, no, that sign we had set up for COVID because we had to register everybody for COVID, but we don't do that anymore. And now coming back to the US, I see I see it everywhere, right? Like on the floor of the main library, there's stand 6 feet apart and you must be masked, but you don't have to, but you should be. And you don't have to answer, but I'm wondering, when do we get rid of it? Because it's kind of noisy, right? I mean, we all kind of ignore it, but it also takes maybe we could be showcasing a book instead of a big thing that has a mask on it. So just.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the concern that we have, and I've seen it other places, so I'm not going to get anyone in trouble, but some other places I've been to, they'll take them down and then you just see these paint chips on the wall. And certainly you could put something over it, but it kind of, it's kind of like give a mouse a cookie. So we're looking at how best to remove that signage from the carpet. I think when I talked to staff, it was funny because their first concern was they wouldn't stay on the carpet. Now we're like, how do we get it off the carpet, So it's just kind of like, what if it never leaves?
Grim reminder.
So, yeah, we're kind of just looking at ways that we can best remove it. You're absolutely right as far as the promotion. One of the other things that we've been looking at is in certain areas of the library, I think it would make a lot of sense to replace some of that signage with our rules of conduct so that they're officially on display. We don't want to we want to strike that balance where people are aware, they're accessible, everyone's been given their due notification. But there could be a lot more resources, informational posters with QR codes to the resources. You're absolutely right. The concern again is to kind of like make sure that we're replacing it, something or not doing more damage to the building. But thank you. That's something we're looking into. And I think we I don't know if the cleaners had any sort of advice on that or.
No, I don't know that they do.
Okay. Yeah, we have I think it's quarterly meetings with the cleaning service. So we're trying to find ways that they could easily remove that.
And it's everywhere when you start looking at it. The retail stores still have the signs, the sidewalk trail says stay 6 feet apart. And I don't know, it kind of feels like we probably don't need that anymore.
Right. Yeah, we got, I made sure we had permission to take down the county information off of the glass walls in the lobby. But you're right, that signage, boy, when people when people get excited about something, it shows, So they got the signs everywhere. I'm sure for years from now, we'll find things we had no idea.
And like I said, it wasn't until I went to Germany and got misdirected by a sign that I even started noticing them. And when we got back, I was like, oh gosh, yeah, we have signs everywhere. So anyway.
Thank you. Anything else?
I had my book tour today. I enjoyed
Oh,
it.
yes.
Library tour. I enjoyed it. I saw the paucity of the foreign language books.
Yes.
With a little empty shelf.
Thank you, Aaron, for conducting that tour.
Yes. Do we have any I noticed whenever I go anywhere, there are Japanese supermarkets. I was telling this to Aaron, there's Japanese supermarkets all around us, and we have 3 Japanese books. Is there any way we could get people to donate their Japanese books? Would we be interested in that?
I'm sure that's a possibility. I think, again, we're trying to pursue a vendor for those materials because talking about the cataloging and that sort of thing, that would hopefully come with it.
Right.
The issue with donations is usually, and it's not insurmountable, but usually you need to find someone bilingual or trilingual to at least know what it is that we're adding to the collection. Again, not necessarily here at all, but other places I've worked at, you do run the risk of adding, things that you probably wouldn't want to add to the collection. So you want to, when I retire and write my tell-all book, I'll write about it. But no, so you want to be careful, but I think it's a good idea. And it's not, you can always recruit volunteers to kind of vet that. for quality and condition. But certainly an option.
Just curious as
Yeah.
to, but I understand about the cataloging and the rest, so truly. It would
But
be
again, they're
better.
not insurmountable and things that we're certainly pursuing. As I think I mentioned a couple meetings ago when I went to Japan and I saw their English book section, is basically the Da Vinci Code and, for, All Quiet on the Western Front. It's kind of like this big chasm of like the classics and whatever was popular that year. So it is challenging to build a collection that would be appealing to folks and keep it fresh and contemporary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the last thing would probably just be to acknowledge that I think this is going to be your last meeting, right?
It is. 8 years.
Wow. Thank you.
And I'm still going to go to the library. I'm looking forward to open access and trying that out. If you want an early adopter, I'll sign up.
Great. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for all your
My
time.
pleasure. My pleasure.
We'll miss you.
Maybe give me a year and then maybe I'll try and help the friends or something.
We'll give you 2 years and hope you come back.
No, it's fun. Library Commission's fun. It's just really cool things happening and Aaron's tour was amazing. So
Yes.
thank you for that.
Yes.
I'm thinking about taking it myself.
You should.
I've thought about it and I'm like, why haven't I done this? So thank
Yes, why not?
I know.
There are lots of distractions, though, I have to tell you that.
Yes, that's true.
Because there's so many Life magazine copies down there, and I would bring a chair and just sit there.
That's true.
I passed a pop-up book that I wanted to take immediately, but I was on my tour, so I had to leave it alone. So there's some wonderful things. I recommend the tour.
Thank you. Glad to hear it.
Well, it was my pleasure. I enjoy giving the tour.
Yeah, thank you for giving us the tour. I think then we're not meeting in September because it is Labor Day, so we won't see each other until October. And we'll have a new commissioners, we think.
Hope so. I did watch the interviews. There was one applicant, but as I understand the process, you didn't necessarily have to be there for the day of the interviews. You could still apply and be appointed. And from the rules online, it said appointments are made in August and orientations take place in September with a new term beginning October 1st. So, we could potentially, I look at the calendar, we could be potentially the first with the new commissioners.
I think our next meeting is October 2nd.
Wow. So
Yeah.
the day after, I don't think anybody beats us.
Yep.
That'll be great. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll look forward to it. All right, well then I think we'd be ready for a motion to adjourn. Nothing else?
I make the motion to adjourn.
I will second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 7:49 PM.
Wow. That was a record one.
That was fast.